All right. Ready? Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I'm Sean Atkins, Chair of the East Point Planning and Zoning Commission, and at this time, I'd like to call our April 18, 2019 meeting to order. Staff, would you please sound roll call to establish a quorum?
Commissioner Lovett. Present. Commissioner Bell. Here. Commissioner Miller.
Present.
Commissioner Fan. Commissioner Atkins.
Present.
Commissioner Tucker.
Here.
Commissioner McKnight. Commissioner Maxwell. Here. Commissioner Mitchell.
Present.
Mr. Chair, you have a quorum.
Thank you. At this time, I'd like to observe a moment of silence. So if you would please join us in a moment of silence. All right, thank you. If you would please stand and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Commissioners, at this time, I'd like to entertain a motion to adopt our agenda.
So moved.
Second.
Are we going to amend the agenda to move?
Mr. Chair, I'd like to make a motion to amend the,
Well, currently, there is a motion to adopt and a second. And so there's a motion to adopt and a second to that motion, and I think that there are some amendments that we need to make. So we need to, yes, Madam.
If the commissioner that seconded the original motion would be willing to amend allow the original maker of the motion to make an amendment, then we can take that second off the floor.
Okay.
I agree to amend.
Okay. And what is your amendment, Commissioner Lovett? You'd like to amend the motion to do what?
I'm actually withdrawing my second on the motion.
So she wants to withdraw her second on the motion. So there is a motion to adopt the agenda. Is there a second? Hearing none, that motion dies. So commissioners, at this time, I entertain a motion to adopt the agenda. Somebody make a motion to amend the agenda, please.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
I make a motion that we amend the agenda.
Okay. And what is your amendment?
My amendment is that we approve the minutes at the end of the current session.
Thank you. Commissioner Miller has made a motion that we amend the agenda as printed to move the approval of the minutes to the end of the agenda. Is there a second?
second.
Are there any comments, questions, or concerns? It's been moved by Commissioner Miller, it's been seconded by Commissioner Tucker that we amend the agenda this evening to move the approval of our March 21st, 2019 minutes to the end of the agenda. All in favor sound aye. Aye. All opposed sound nay. Hearing none, the ayes have it. Our agenda is so amended. Our next agenda item would then be new business. Our first agenda item is 2019 Z as in Zebra -003-02 and 2019 V as in Victor C as in Charles -005-02. Staff, would you please sound this agenda item?
Case number 2019 Z-003-02, concurrent variance 2019 VC-005-02. The applicant, Duke Realty Land LLC. The location is 0 Washington Road, rear. The applicant seeks to rezone the property from R3, multifamily residential, to BP, business park, with a 2-part concurrent variance. The applicant seeks relief from Chapter 6, Section 10-6010 through Section 10-6024, as well as relief from Chapter 6, Section 10-6008D, which reduces the zoning buffer where R3 is adjacent to BP to 0.
Thank you. This agenda item, along with all the other items that are to be heard this evening, require a public hearing. At this time, I'm going to read our rules for public hearings. They will apply to all of our cases this evening. Public hearings before the Planning and Zoning Commission shall be conducted in accordance to Section 10-2219 of the East Point Zoning Code and Development Regulations as follows. Persons both favoring and opposing the proposed case will be provided an opportunity to address the Commission. The applicant for the zoning case or the applicant designated representative, if any, will be entitled to speak first, followed by other speakers in favor of the proposal for a total of 15 minutes. Those who oppose the proposed zoning case will then be permitted to speak for a total of 15 minutes. By majority vote, the Commission may increase the total time for speakers provided that each side is given the same amount of time. If there is more than one speaker for a side, the chair or the presiding officer may limit the time allotted to each individual speaker other than the zoning applicant. The zoning applicant may reserve a portion of his or her allotted time for rebuttal. Speakers must adhere to the rules of decorum. Prior to speaking, each speaker shall identify him or herself and state his or her current address. Each speaker shall speak only to the merits of the proposed zoning decision under consideration, shall address remarks only to the Commission, and shall refrain from making personal attacks on any other speaker. The presiding officer may refuse a speaker the right to continue if, after first being cautioned, the speaker continues to violate the rules of decorum. You've heard our rules for public hearings. Commissioners, at this time, I entertain a motion to open a public hearing for case number 2019 Z as in zebra -003-02 and 2019 V as in Victor C as in Charles -005-02.
I so move.
Is there a second? Second. It's been moved by Commissioner Maxwell, seconded by Commissioner Miller, that we open a public hearing for this zoning case. All in favor sound aye. Aye. All opposed sound nay. Hearing none, the ayes have it. The public hearing is now open. Is the applicant here this evening, Duke Realty? Would you please step to the podium, state your first and last name and your current address?
Good evening, Mr. Chair, members of the Commission. My name is Steve Rothman, 2849 Paces Ferry Road, Atlanta, Georgia, 30339, and I'm here on behalf of Duke Realty. I'm also joined by David Sprinkle with Duke Realty. I know we went over this thoroughly in last week's work session, but I got the staff's recommendation, so I'm going to, which says denial, so I'm going to go through in a little detail our presentation as I did last week, and try to weave in their analysis and our response to it. We just got it, but I think we're prepared to respond tonight. This is a small piece of property. According to the staff report, it's 1.7 acres. We think it might be 1.8 or something like that. That doesn't have any road frontage. And so in order to get to this property, you've got to come across Duke Realty's property. That property, whether to the north or to the west, was zoned at the end of 2017 to business park. That property is immediately to the west. One of the pieces abuts an apartment complex that's to the east that we also abut to the east. This piece right here abuts to the east. What we propose to do with this property, which is currently zoned, I believe, R4, is to use it to pave as a parking lot to store trailers behind the building that's been constructed to the west. If you'll recall, we came in a couple years ago, I can't believe it's been a couple years, and rezoned two parcels into two tracts, but those tracts consisted of many, many small parcels. And in a way, we combined them. They had different zonings, some single family, some agriculture, some business park. And then to the north of this, there was a tract that had been approved for townhomes, and about 10 townhomes had been built. And then the deal did not go forward, and it stood vacant for about 10 years. And this commission recommended approval to rezone to business park for both of those at that time, and it sort of wedded all those properties together. This is an out parcel. The reason why Duke Realty didn't combine this with those is because at the time, the property was being foreclosed on by a bank. And at that time, Duke couldn't know whether or not the bank would successfully foreclose, and if they did, how and would the bank sell the property? Well, they have sold the property to Duke Realty now. The best use for this property, we believe, is to combine it with the surrounding uses to the north and to the west. The current R4, if tried to develop it under R4, we think would be inappropriate. So the current zoning is not appropriate at all. It's not large enough to independently build apartments of any size, and in order to get to these apartments, you'd have to drive through warehousing or logistics businesses to get there. But more importantly, this area, I think as the staff report acknowledges, in reality has been redeveloped and is largely part of the Camp Creek Business Center. North Commerce Drive has been extended to attach to Washington Road. As we just said, the property to the west and to the north has been rezoned. The apartments to the east are older apartments, as is the Motel 6. We are about between 20 and 10 feet lower in elevation than those properties. And as we submitted to the staff and showed you all, read to you in the work session, we have worked with the owner of that apartment complex, and they have sent an email. I guess it's too strong to say they support. They do not oppose this zoning, and they were fine with it, and they were more concerned with us working with them to help them work on some other matters related to their sewer and water pipes and things like that. So with that, we think that the current zoning is inappropriate. One more reason we believe the current zoning is inappropriate is that and this was expressly made when City Council ratified your recommendations on the two other parcels and approved the business park zoning to the north and to the west. It was expressly stated that it is inappropriate to put homes here because of the flight path. And the City Council members expressly said, we don't need to be building any residential units in this area. And that was important because that was raised in a context of a concern raised by the staff about the future land use map designation for those pieces, which called it redevelopment neighborhood or neighborhood, some kind of neighborhood. And at that time, a discussion was had expressly by City Council that even though the map says that, this should be approved to allow business park because the residential designation for this is just not appropriate. And so we believe City Council set a policy by adopting those two zonings to go from residential to business park. And so in this case, when the staff says one of our concerns is the future land use map designation, I'd ask you to consider that, number one, this commission heard those arguments before and recognized not only the facts on the ground, but the best use of this property going forward is not residential for the other two parcels. This is even more extreme because this is a landlocked, and when I say landlocked, I mean no street grids, which is what the land use plan classification suggests. No ability to connect to streets without walking through business park property. That actually, between your policy that you recommended last time, City Council expressly adopting it, we think that that's appropriate in this case. Additionally, there's a concern that was raised about apartments to the east and the impact that might occur with them by introducing a warehousing use. Well, first of all, that was already introduced because just to the south of us and to the southwest, business park zoning has been approved adjacent to that same apartment complex. That apartment complex owner does not object to this zoning request. Plus, this piece of property will not be used for loading and unloading and the kind of activity that's associated with warehousing. This will be to park store trailers. If anything, it's the most passive, quiet use that a business park can have. Even an office with employees that are coming and going will have more noise and activity than having a trailer brought to this piece of property. Now, we discussed last week conditions that we would be agreeable to, and I want to reiterate that to you now. We agreed, even though we showed you the site plan and we said we're agreeable to the site plan, there was some discussion about adding words that say the widest that the buffer, let me see how we put it, it would be a minimum 30-foot buffer. And so we're agreeable to that. There was also an agreement we made that when the tree density calculations are calculated, we would calculate them not just on this 1.7 acre parcel, but with whatever lot we combine it with. And so with that, save the rest of my time for rebuttal. We're here to respond to any questions, but we'd ask for your approval, and we're happy for those conditions to be imposed. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Rothman. Are there any other proponents here? Anyone else here to speak in favor of this zoning case? Any other proponents? Any other proponents? Is there anyone here to speak against this zoning case? Anyone here to speak against this zoning case? Okay, seeing no proponents and seeing no opponents, at this time, commissioners are entertaining a motion to close the public hearing.
Mr. Chairman,
Oh,
I'd like to make a motion to close the public hearing.
okay. Mr. Tucker made the motion to close. Would you like to second?
I will second.
Okay. There's been a motion to close the public hearing by Commissioner Tucker, a second by Commissioner Miller. All in favor sound aye.
Aye.
All opposed sound nay. Hearing none, the ayes have it. The public hearing is now closed. Staff, would you please sound your recommendation?
In case number 2019Z-003-02, concurrent variance number 2019 VC-005-02. Staff recommends denial of rezoning the property from R3 multifamily residential to BP Business Park due to nonconformity with the vision, intent, and use and scale of the redevelopment neighborhood character area adopted in the City of East Point's 2017 Comprehensive Land Use Update and Future Development Map. Subsequently, staff recommends denial of the two-part concurrent variances to grant relief from all provisions required within sections 10-6010 through 10-6024, tree protection and landscaping ordinance, and to allow grading into the 75-foot undisturbed buffer as required in section 10-6008D.
Thank you. Commissioners, you've heard from the applicant and you've heard staff's recommendation. At this time, I entertain a motion.
Mr. Chair,
Yes, Commissioner Tucker.
I'd like to make a motion to recommend approval for discussion.
Okay, is there a
Second.
It's been moved by Commissioner Tucker, seconded by Commissioner Mitchell, that we approve for discussion. At this time, one of the things before we get discussion started, because I do want context for this conversation, do we have the images that were presented at the work session that shows the aerial view of the subject property? That is a site plan. I'm glad that we do have that, but are the other images available as well?
I do have the Google Maps available. I just need to switch to it. Would you like to see the Google Maps?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
All right, thank you. So we're going to give Mr. Trevino an opportunity to pull up the Google map so that we can have sort of a robust and informed conversation about this. Okay, Mr. Trevino, stay there, please. Can you please hover the mouse over the subject property? I want, for those commissioners who were not here for work session, where Mr. Trevino is hovering, that is the subject property. Can you also, and I think I must say that this particular aerial view is outdated, as there's already developed land where he's now hovering the mouse. And I don't want to speak out of turn, but that, I believe, is the land that was referenced by Mr. Rothman that was assembled because there were several different properties. And that is now warehousing And so it's already a part of the business park, and they're all warehouses, correct?
Correct.
Is it 1, 2 warehouses? How many? Could you please step to the podium so that those who are not here would have the benefit of this conversation as well?
That's correct. It's one building, and it was assembled from many parcels.
Symbol for many properties. So that big area where there is forest is now a huge warehouse, correct?
That's correct.
Okay. And you did not purchase the other piece that is the subject piece today where the mouse is, because at the time you assembled the other parcels and came before us, that piece was under foreclosure, correct?
That's correct.
Okay, thank you.
And I would add, if you want to go into it, to the north, you see those streets, the paved streets? At the
Yes.
same time, that was also rezoned to BP. And
Okay.
today, those roads and those townhomes that were built but never occupied are gone.
Are not there.
Right,
yes.
and that is going to be another warehouse.
And Duke purchased that as well.
That's correct.
Okay, all right, thank you. All right. Any more comments, questions, or Commissioner Tucker?
The 44 tractor trailers, they're going to be parked, stored, running? What will become of those trailers on that?
They're not going to be running. Now, when I say they won't be running, that doesn't
Of
mean
course,
a
you've
guy
got to
won't
get them.
do it occasionally, but
Right.
it will be storing trailers that are not being used.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any more comments, questions, or concerns?
Hi.
Yes,
I'd like
Ms.
to
Smith.
interject and provide conditions that staff prepared for you to consider. with your-
Okay, please do.
Staff's recommendation upon the commission's approval of the case, staff recommends an amendment to the 2017 Comprehensive Land Use Plan and future land use map to classify these properties as business park industrial with the following conditions to the current variance. The applicant will adhere to all regulations in sections 10-6001 through 10-6009. The applicant shall use trees and landscape plant materials found in 10-6023. Any substitutions thereof shall be approved by the Planning and Community Development Director. And these conditions are in step with ones that have been recommended in the past.
Thank you. In addition to that, while we're having discussion, there was also a site plan that was provided to this commission by the applicant. I would also like to add to those conditions that staff is recommending that the approval is subject to condition also the site plan as provided by the applicant, dated whatever that date is on it. My eyesight fails me. Do we have any identifiers on that site plan so that we can reference that in the conditions?
Mr. Chair, may I ask a question?
You may.
I had not seen the recommended conditions from staff. I usually see them beforehand. If those can go up again, I think those are acceptable, but the first one said from 10-6001 through 10-6009, but our first variance is to a variance from 10-6008D. And so as long as it's understood that we're getting a variance from 10-6008D, I'm cool. But I just wanted to make that clear
Okay.
so that there's not a confusion when we come in for permitting. And so maybe to clarify that by,
Yeah.
except for the
It's
variance.
just inclusive of, 7 additional sections of the code.
If I'm hearing Mr. Rothman correctly, what I believe is that going from 10-6001 to 10-6009, it includes 10-6008, and they're asking to vary from that, correct?
That's correct.
So that means that condition would, in essence, nullify your request for a variance or our action here and subsequent action from the council.
Right,
Is that-
that's correct.
yes.
It would require us to leave it undisturbed.
Undisturbed. So Can you just give us just 1 second so that we can go through those sections? Staff, can I ask a question while you're doing that? Can we amend that to just list the sections 10-6001, 10-6002, 10-6003, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 9?
While they're doing that, were you able to give any indication of the date of your site plan? Any?
He does.
Yes. The site plan, which is the site plan we submitted with the application, is dated October 29th, 2018, and prepared for Duke Realty by the firm Haynes, Haines, Gibson, Gipson, and Associates.
Thank you.
Okay. We currently have a motion on the floor to approve. Staff has offered some conditions. The commission, I believe we are amenable to those conditions, but we do want to clean up a part of those conditions, and we'd also like to add the site plan as we discussed in our work session last week. Commissioners, are you okay with that? Okay? Yes. Okay. And so what we would like to say first is, we'd have to go back and amend the motion, but I want to get the conditions right, and then go back and amend the motion to add the conditions. So the conditions would be that the applicant will adhere to all regulations in sections 10-6001 through 10-6009, excluding 10-6008D. Okay? I want to make sure that that is clear for the record. And the commissioners, the reason we're doing that is because they're asking to vary from 10-6008D. Okay? And then the next condition would be the applicant shall use trees and landscaping plant material found in 10-6023. Any substitutions thereof shall be approved by the Planning and Community Development Director. The third condition is, Valerie, I may need. So, and the applicant must adhere to the site plan as presented to the East Point Planning and Zoning Commission, dated October 29th, 2018. Is that right?
Yes.
Okay, October 29th, 2018. Site plan as presented by the applicant dated October 29th, 2018.
That's
So-
correct.
And to add the condition of 30-foot buffer. You agreed to a condition of a minimum 30-foot buffer?
And that there should be a minimum of a 30-foot buffer. 30-foot landscaping buffer.
That's correct.
Yes, okay? So those are the four, we'll do 4 conditions. So I just want to make sure the record is clear.
Was there one additional condition in reference to tree density calculations that he mentioned?
Yeah, we had some discussion about that last week, so I think that we're good with the site plan that they presented.
Got it.
So those are the 4 conditions, commissioners, okay? They must adhere to sections 10-6001 through 10-6009, excluding 10-6008D. They must use trees and landscaping plant materials found in 10-6023. They must also adhere to the site plan as presented to the East Point Community Planning and Community Development Office and this commission dated October 29th, 2018, and the minimum landscape buffer shall be 30 feet. So those are the conditions. I think the motion was made by Commissioner Tucker. It was seconded by Commissioner Mitchell. Commissioner Tucker, do you amend your motion to accept those conditions?
Yes, I do.
And the second still stands per Mr. Mitchell. Are there any comments, questions, or concerns? Hearing none, all in favor sound aye. Aye. All opposed sound nay. Hearing none, the ayes have it. This body recommends approval. Thank you. Thank you. Staff, would you please sound our next agenda item, 2019 U as an umbrella -002-03.
Yes, Mr. Commissioner, the applicant Melissa Campbell is seeking a special use permit to establish a bed and breakfast within the CR Commercial Redevelopment Zoning and Downtown Overlay Districts located at 2849 East Point Street.
Okay, thank you. Commissioners, at this time, I entertain a motion to open a public hearing for case number 2019 U as an umbrella -002-03.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, Commissioner Miller?
I make a motion we open the public hearing.
Is there a second?
Second.
It's been moved by Commissioner Miller, second by Commissioner Lovett, that we open the public hearing. All in favor sound aye. All opposed sound nay. Hearing none, the ayes have it. The public hearing is now open. Is Ms. Campbell present this evening? Would you please step forward, state your first and last name and your current address?
Good evening, I'm Melissa Campbell. So I am looking to bring quite a bit, I believe, of wealth of value to the corner of East Point Street and Thompson Avenue by starting a bed and breakfast that will be focused on 2 things. Number 1, health. So it will mostly be a wellness center where people can come and stay, and we can help them make some healthy decisions when it comes down to meals and so forth. Number 2, it would provide lodging for, because it will be upscale, hopefully for persons at Fort McPherson with, why is his name on the tip of my tongue? I can't think of his name all of a sudden.
Take your time.
Oh, thank you. Yes, McPherson. Okay, I'll leave it at that. Okay.
Okay.
So that's my plan.
Are there any other proponents here to speak in favor of this zoning case? Any other proponents? Is there anyone else here to speak in favor of this zoning case? Is there anyone here to speak against this zoning case? Anyone here to speak against the zoning case? Hearing none and seeing none, Commissioners, at this time I entertain a motion to close the public hearing.
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
It's been moved by Commissioner Tucker, second by Commissioner Miller, that we close the public hearing. All in favor sound aye. Aye. All opposed sound nay. Hearing none, the ayes have it. The public hearing is now closed. Staff, would you please sound your recommendation?
Staff recommends deferral of the special use permit for a bed and breakfast to allow the applicant an opportunity to resolve existing encroachment concerns.
Okay. Commissioners, you've heard from the applicant, you've also heard staff's recommendation. At this time, I entertain a motion.
Mr. Chair,
Yes, Commissioner Tucker.
I'd like to make a motion to defer to our next regularly scheduled work session.
Okay. It's been moved by Commissioner Tucker, seconded by Commissioner Maxwell, that we defer this agenda item to our regularly scheduled May meeting. Is there any comments, questions, or concerns? I'd like to ask a question of the applicant. Would you please step to the podium again? So I'm assuming that you're aware that there are some encroachment issues that have yet to be resolved.
Yes.
Okay. And are you okay with the deferrals? Are going to cause a hardship or any of those things? Or do you have a remedy for the encroachment this evening that you want to share with us?
I do feel like I have a remedy. It does cause me some financial issues to push it off for another 30 days, as we have a couple of other things going on as well. And so this is it's been kind of a minute already, and we've spent a significant amount of money on getting the site plan done. So, so what the problem is that there's a sidewalk that is kind of like it's on the next property. However, we actually own all three properties somewhat, because the one property is in my mom's name, deeded in my mom's name, and the other two properties are deeded in my husband and I's name. So it's like technically all of ours, number one. But number two, the sidewalk is not something that we need access to whatsoever.
Okay. All right.
So
it's the somewhat, we sort of own the property. We
Well,
also
we do.
own it
We own-
somewhat, but it's in different names.
Correct.
So I think that because of that, there are some concerns, and we want to make sure that it's clean. And so I haven't heard a remedy other than it is owned by family, and they're different individuals. And so I don't know if that's a sustainable or viable remedy. Okay?
Okay, so I talked with Ms. Blatch, who had a couple of suggestions. One being doing an encroachment, an easement, saying that we can, you have that,
Right,
that
okay.
easement. And so now we're kind of leaning towards just combining all three lots, because it seems like that might solve the problem. But at the same time, I need it to be I want to do whatever's going to be speedy, because financially it is becoming quite a bit of burden.
And I think we want to do whatever is proper and right.
I
We
get
don't
that.
have an easement before us today, nor have we consolidated all of the lots. So currently, there's a motion to defer to our May meeting.
Okay.
And there's a second. But I thought
Okay.
that perhaps if you had a solution that had already been worked out that we did not know about, I wanted to give you an opportunity to express that, but it sounds like we're not quite there yet.
Okay, I appreciate that.
You're welcome. Thank you, Ms. Campbell. Commissioners, there's a motion by Commissioner Tucker, seconded by Commissioner Maxwell, that we deferred this agenda item to our regularly scheduled May meeting. All in favor, sound aye. Aye. All opposed, sound nay. Hearing none, the ayes have it. This item is deferred. Our next agenda item is 2019 V as in Victor -006-03. Staff, would you please sound this agenda item?
The applicant, Diana Flores, is seeking a stream buffer variance to encroach into the 25-foot setback as required in Section 10-12021, subsection 2, located at 2938 Duke of Windsor.
Commissioners, at this time, I entertain a motion to open a public hearing. Is there a second?
Second.
It's been moved by Commissioner Miller, second by Commissioner Mitchell, that we open the public hearing for 2019 V as in Victor -006-03. All in favor, sound aye. Aye. All opposed, sound nay. Hearing none, the ayes have it. The public hearing is now open. Is Ms. Flores present this evening? please step forward, state your first and last name and your current address.
Good evening, my name is Diana Flores. My current address is 3034 Orr Drive in East Point, Georgia, 30344. And I'm seeking approval for a retaining wall at 2938 Duke of Windsor, also in East Point. Basically, I just need this retaining wall approved to keep my son from falling into the creek from when we build our house, so he can be able to be outside and enjoy the backyard as much as he can.
Okay, thank you. Are there any other proponents here to speak in favor of this zoning case? Any other proponents? Any other proponents? Seeing none, are there any opponents here to speak against this zoning case? Any opponents? Seeing none, Commissioners, at this time I entertain a motion to close the public hearing.
Motion to close.
Is there a second? Second. It's been moved by Commissioner Lovett, seconded by Commissioner Miller, that we close the public hearing. All in favor sound aye.
Aye.
All opposed sound nay. Hearing none, the ayes have it. The public hearing is now closed. Staff, would you please sound your recommendation?
Yes, Commissioner. Staff recommends approval to encroach a maximum of 35 linear feet into the additional 25-foot setback beyond the undisturbed natural vegetative buffer as required in Section 10-12021, subsection 2.
All right, thank you. Commissioners, you've heard from the applicant, you've heard staff's recommendation. At this time, I entertain a motion. And because it is a variance, please make sure that you do not have to make your motion in the form of a recommendation.
Mr. Chairman, I move that we accept staff's recommendation to approve.
Is there a second? Second. Okay, it's been moved by Commissioner Lovett, seconded by Commissioner McKnight, that this body approves case number 2019 V as in Victor -006-03. All in favor sound aye.
Aye.
All opposed sound nay. Hearing none, the ayes have it. The case is approved, Ms. Flores. You're welcome. Our next agenda item is 2019 M as in Mary -003-03. Staff, would you please sound this agenda item?
Yes, Commissioner. The applicant seeks to amend Part 10, Chapter 2, Article B, Section 10-2013, Building Separations, to include language on measuring distance.
The applicant for this agenda item is the City of East Point, so staff, would you please present your case?
The intent of the separation of use requirements outlined in various sections of the City of East Point zoning ordinance is to prevent the proliferation and concentration of uses within a certain district. These requirements attempt to foster a diversity of uses within designated areas. Although provisions in Part 10, Chapter 2, Article D, administrative and use permits do not stipulate a technique for measuring the distance specified, with the exception of Section 10-2097, subsection A16, focus on the intent of the City Council, along with the consideration of analogous provisions in the zoning ordinance as a whole. It is of staff's opinion that the proper technique for measurement in these sections is a straight line measurement from the exterior face of the proposed use to the nearest exterior property line of the closest specified use. Recognizing that clarification may be warranted as to the measurement technique, a text amendment is proposed as follows. Section 10-2013, Building and Use Separations. All building separations shall be as specified by the International Code Council, unless otherwise specified herein, wherein the code requires minimum building or use separations. The separation distance shall be measured along a horizontal straight line from the benchmarks specified. Where the code section specifies measurements from or to buildings, the measurement shall be from or to the closest exterior building face. If no specific benchmarks for separation measurement are provided, The separation distance shall be measured from exterior property line to the closest property line of the property containing specified uses or within the zoning district specified.
Thank you. Is there anyone here? Did I open a public hearing?
You did.
I don't think I opened a public hearing. I did. So I need to go back and clean that up. Commissioners, at this time, I'd like to entertain a motion to open a public hearing for case number 2019 M as in Mary -003-03.
So moved.
Is there a second? It's been moved by Commissioner Tucker, by Commissioner Miller, second by Commissioner Lovett, that we open the public hearing. All in favor, sound aye. Aye. All opposed, sound nay. Hearing none, the ayes have it. We've heard staff sound this agenda item. Are there any other proponents here to speak in favor of this agenda item? Any other proponents? Are there any opponents here to speak against this agenda item? Any opponents? Hearing none, and seeing none, Commissioners, at this time, I entertain a motion to close the public hearing.
Motion to close the public hearing.
Is there a second? It's been moved by Commissioner Miller, second by Commissioner McKnight, that we close the public hearing. All in favor, sound aye. Aye. All opposed, sound nay. Hearing none, the ayes have it. The public hearing is now closed. And staff, we've also heard your recommendation or your presentation on this. Commissioners, at this time, I entertain a motion. That's not all speak at once.
I'd like to make a motion for the recommendation of the text amendment.
Is that to
Number,
approve? To approve?
To approve the text amendment.
Okay. Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, there's been a motion by Commissioner McKnight, second by Commissioner Lovett, that this body recommends approval of the text amendment. Any comments, questions, or concerns? All in favor, sound aye. Aye. All opposed, sound nay. Hearing none, the ayes have it. The body recommends approval. Our next agenda item is 2019 M as in Mary -004-03. Commissioners, at this time, staff, would you please sound this agenda item?
Yes, Commissioner.
Go ahead and sound it, and then I'm going to open a public hearing.
The applicant, the city, is seeking to amend Part 10, Chapter 2, Section 10-2062, the R1A Urban Residential, and Part 10, Chapter 2, Article D, Administrative Permits and Use Permits to include regulations for an allowance of duplex and triplex uses where existing.
Thank you. Commissioners, at this time, I entertain a motion to open the public hearing for case number 2019 M as in Mary -004-03.
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
It's been moved by Commissioner Tucker, seconded by Commissioner Mitchell, that we open the public hearing. All in favor, sound aye. Aye. All opposed, sound nay. Hearing none, the ayes have it. The public hearing is now open. The applicant is the City of East Point. Staff, would you please sound your case?
The R1A Urban Residential Zoning District was created in 2005 and recodified in 2007. Upon creation of this single-family zoning district, the city initiated a rezoning of several properties to R1A, including multiple properties of which duplex and triplex dwellings exist, rendering the existing duplex and triplex structures legal non-conforming uses. In accordance with city codes, the legal non-conforming status remained intact as long as the structures were occupied. However, once the structure became vacant for a year or more, the legal non-conforming status was voided. Therefore, the structures has to conform to current zoning district regulations. The only option available to restore the use of the structures as duplex or triplex residential is to rezone the property. Since the creation of the R1A zoning district, numerous property owners have submitted applications for rezoning properties on which duplexes or triplexes existed prior to the creation of the aforementioned district. Many of said applications have been granted, and in doing so, the mayor and city council have recognized that in certain instances, the existence of duplexes and triplexes within the R1A district is not consistent with the purpose and intent of the district, and not a detriment to the public health, safety, and welfare. Recognizing this development constraint, staff proposes a text amendment to Part 10, Chapter 2, Article C, Section 10-2062, subsection C, and Chapter 2, Article D, Section 10-2091, subsection 1, to allow for duplexes and triplexes by administrative permit. This amendment would define duplex and triplex dwellings and establish associated standards. Finally, the institution of this text amendment would encourage revitalization of blighted and/or vacant properties and alleviate cost-prohibitive development parameters created by the reclassification of the above-mentioned properties.
Thank you. Are there any other proponents here for this zoning case? Any other proponents? Are there any opponents here to speak against this zoning case? Any opponents? Hearing none and seeing none, commissioners, at this time I entertain a motion to close the public hearing.
Motion to close.
It's been moved by Commissioner Lovett, seconded by Commissioner Mitchell, that we close the public hearing. All in favor, sound aye.
Aye.
All opposed, sound nay. Hearing none, the ayes have it. The public hearing is now closed. Staff, would you please sound your recommendation?
In case number 2019 M-004-03, staff recommends approval of the text amendment to Part 10, Chapter 2, Section 10-2062, R1A Urban Residential, and Part 10, Chapter 2, Article D, Administrative Permits and Use Permits, to include regulations for an allowance of duplex and triplex uses where existing.
Thank you. Commissioners, you've heard from staff, and you've heard the case, and you've heard their recommendation. At this time, I entertain a motion.
Motion to accept staff's recommendation to approve.
Is there a second?
I have a question.
There has to be a motion and a second before we can start discussion.
Sure.
So you can second for discussion if you'd like.
I second for
Discussion.
exactly.
Okay. So there's a motion by Commissioner Lovett and a second for discussion by Commissioner Bell. Commissioner Bell, you have a question?
Yes. So I just want to be absolutely sure that we captured the amendments that we sent out regarding this text here. It is a additional section that was added, and there were changes to one of the sections. So there was some additional text that was added to Section 7, and Section 8 is new. So I just want to be clear that it's included.
That's correct. That is included in the text amendment.
Okay.
All right. Any other comments, questions, or concerns? There's a motion to recommend approval made by Commissioner Lovett, seconded by Commissioner Bell. All in favor, sound aye.
Aye.
All opposed, sound nay. Hearing none, the ayes have it. This body recommends approval. Thank you. Our next agenda item would be the approval of our March 21st, 2019 meeting minutes. Commissioners, at this time, I entertain a motion to approve the March 21st, 2019 meeting minutes.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, Commissioner Miller.
make a motion that we accept the March meeting minutes as amended by P&Z Council.
Turn your microphone on, please.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion that we accept the March meeting minutes as amended by P&Z Council. There are some additions that I would like to read out loud.
Okay. Is there a second?
Second.
It's been moved by Commissioner Miller, seconded by Commissioner Mitchell, that we approve the March 21st, 2019 meeting minutes as amended by the P and Z Council. Mr. Miller, you said that you had some amendments that you'd like to read into the record.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Yes, on page 20, line number 6, starts out with Ms. Clayton, who is the attorney. We're just asking that you grant the distance variance, which is a precursor of the staff's recommendation. And unless I'm misunderstanding the staff, I think that if we could come to some kind of agreement on the hardship and the variance, then the special use permit and the additional variance for the higher restriction would follow. The next addition would be on page 31. It's lines 21 through 24. This is a statement by Commissioner Atkins. I have questions. So I was not at the last week's work session due to travel. My question is around, I heard the first attorney, Lauren, reference the absence of the method which would be used to measure the distance. Can you speak to that a little bit, just so I'm clear about that, please? The next amendment is on page 32. It's line number 5 through 7. The applicant apparently has shown not to repeal the staff's interpretation that is a measurement be a straight line measurement. This concludes the amendments.
Are there any other?
Yes.
Are there any other amendments? Okay. Commissioner Mitchell?
Not to the amendment, but a correction on the front page where it says I was absent. I was actually here, made some motions, and then I had to leave.
Okay. So do we then need to, if Commissioner Mitchell had to leave, should we also note where he had to leave? Because if there were votes taken and he was not a part of those votes, then I don't want those to be attributed to him. So how do we record that he was present for a portion of the meeting, but then was not present for the latter part?
Staff would have to go through the recording and make that determination. I don't know if they would be able to do that right now. So you guys would have to have a correction made for that specific item on the minutes, because unless staff can make that determination now, it would have to be revisited.
Okay.
Yeah, you'd have to look at the tape.
What if we were calling
It was electric fence. 3151. Electric fence. So you didn't do any votes? Okay. On other cases. Okay. At the time, he was
So there's a motion to approve the March 21st, 2019 meeting minutes by Commissioner Miller and a second by Commissioner Mitchell. However, I think that we also need to perfect the record. Yes.
Commissioner Mitchell just informed staff that he did not participate in any votes on that evening. He left before the first case was sounded.
Yes.
Last time I'm showing in the minutes is approval of February 21st.
Right. So how do we note that on the minutes?
You can note that in the motion to approve the minutes, that Commissioner Mitchell was not absent. He was here until the sounding of the first case.
Okay. And so, Commissioner Miller and Commissioners, the motion is to approve our March 21st, 2019 meeting minutes with the amendments as made by our P and Z council and as stated by Commissioner, and as read into the record by Commissioner Miller, and also noting that Commissioner Mitchell was not present for any of the votes as he left the meeting before the first case was sounded.
Right. So he was not absent as indicated in the minutes.
Right. He was present and then he left the meeting before any votes were taken. And so we want to make sure that that is a part of the record and the amendment to the March 21st, 2019 meeting minutes. Do you accept that as a friendly amendment?
I accept it as a friendly amendment. However, there is another change that needs to be made.
Okay, you want to read another change?
Yes, sir, Mr. Chairman. Due to our election of new officers in February of this year, Commissioner Jared Bell is now the provisional chair.
Okay, so we also need to list Commissioner Bell as the provisional chair, and that was based on the elections that took place the month prior to March, so the month of February. Okay? So we'll correct that as well. All right? So our corrections are the amendments as read by Commissioner Miller. We're also noting in the minutes that Commissioner Mitchell was present, but however left before any of the votes were taken on any of the cases. He left before we read the first case, and we are adding the title of provisional chair to Commissioner Bell's name in the meeting minutes. Do you accept that as a friendly amendment, Commissioner Miller?
Yes, sir.
And Commissioner Mitchell, and his second, Commissioner Mitchell's second still stand. All in favor, sound aye. Aye. All opposed, sound nay. Here none, the ayes have it. This body approves the March 21st, 2019 meeting minutes as amended and further noted. Okay, our next agenda item are announcements. Any announcements, staff? Commissioners, do you have any announcements? Great. At this time, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
Second.
It's been moved by Commissioner Miller, seconded by Commissioner Mitchell, that this meeting is now adjourned. All in favor, sound aye. Aye. All opposed, sound nay. Hearing none, the ayes have it. This meeting is now adjourned.